on this week's episode. I've got coverage of ISE 2023 here in Barcelona. I've got a wide range of guests where we're going to be bringing you all of the news that we've learned here from the show floor, bringing it to you shortly.
The network for the AV industry.
What are you listening to?
This
is AV.
This
is AVNation.
This is AVNation.
We can't say the future without AI. I mean, there's no way around it. 50% of workers now believe AI is going to improve their experience. When I come into the meeting room, I need a way to incorporate my AI with what's going on in the meeting. It's almost a bring your own AI type of a concept. Most of what we do in our day-to-day is going to change significantly.
Hear the latest AV trends and predictions in this episode of Crestron's Smarter Spaces podcast on your preferred podcast platform.
This is AVWeek, episode 598, our live coverage of ISE 2023 in Barcelona, Spain. This is AVWeek. I'm Tim Albright. This is Rich Pagosa, Uncle Richie, actually reporting from ISE here in Barcelona 2023. I'm here in the AVNation studio. It is day 4, and I finally get to sit down and talk with friends and friends of the show. To my right, I've got Gina Sansevero, who is the VP of Marketing for Corporate Communications. I write it down just so I can make sure I get the entire mouthful. It's great to see you.
It's so good to see you, Rich. Thanks for having me.
And over here, who has been keeping me in laughter the entire time while we've been sitting here, I've got Clive Coldwell. Clive, you are the editor-in-chief of AV Magazine with a capital M.
Yes, that's right. It's a group editor, but it's meaningless. In fact, I'm here instead of Clive Coldwell. He can't make it today. I look so like him, I thought I'd just make the effort.
That's it. We're passing on through. So we are at the end of the show. And one of the great things about the wrap-up with AV Week is typically it's the end of the week and it's all things in our industry, but this is all things show. One of the conversations we had before we were recording was that I was here covering the show for summer of 22 in May, and part of the big conversation we had there was when the doors opened, we all sat there and go, is this thing going to happen? And there was a whole lot of trepidation, and then there was a pleasant surprise that occurred. Fast forward now to January, it's colder. I'm a little grumpy about that. But it opened with a bang this year. It felt like it was back. I wanted to get, just kind of from the beginning, what are your first impressions of the show when we started on Monday?
First impressions on Monday were, holy cow, that's a wall of people. It was just so exciting. The environment, the energy. I think when people came back, they were not only happy to see each other, but they were happy that we were in Barcelona. They were happy that this is a new step forward for the industry. And yes, I was here in May as well, and it felt like there were people excited about it. This time it was just it was a tunnel of energy and just this excitement about less about technology and more about us, more about the AV family that we've created, right?
Well, we felt more like a family after queuing for 2 hours.
Well, that is for sure.
Well, the lines
I've got a lot of people in the queue.
The lines were a little crazy in the beginning.
I think they've admitted that they must have known how many people are coming here, but it's a big centre, and you think big centres absorb a lot of people. But it's just a flow through on the exits and everything else. That will soon be ironed out, I'm sure. But for me, the biggest thing was when it was launched, and I saw the effect on the local Catalan and Spanish community.
Really?
About having a trade show here. So I thought, well, if things don't slightly go well, the local region will pick up the slack and go for it. It's been hugely influential.
Well, we were under the rumor of an impending taxi strike
at
the beginning of the show.
Really?
Absolutely.
Oh, I didn't hear about that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, fortunately, I think we've navigated it. But that's interesting that the community and the Catalan community itself. So. Inside Barcelona, the Catalan community themselves.
And add to that, a fantastic exposition centre. I mean, it was really good here. They'd seen, the other telecom shows here, and previously I've been here to cover the Olympics, Formula One, all these sort of things. So the area is really good and everything else.
So you get to do cool stuff, and I'm sitting here in the AVNation studio. So I'm tagging along with you next time.
No, I was a bit younger then, I have to say. But it's going to be good, and the press office and various other things, the facilities, and the amount of room you have to walk and see stuff and meet people is just exceptional. Thank goodness we left Amsterdam, even though I loved Amsterdam
Right.
when we did.
Well, let's talk about the size of the show because our good friend Mike Blackman had released some of the early numbers the other day. But I think one of the interesting things that he talked about is this, from a size of a show, was one of the largest to date at this point. I mean, 8 halls. There are 6 halls, grand total. So we've got 2, 3, 4, 7, 8 in
exhibitors, aren't
audio
there?
rooms. But it's a trek getting from one side to the other.
Thank goodness for their travel agents. My advice is to go outside and skip the hall going that way. You save, apart from half an hour to Hall 8, you can make it 10 minutes if you go outside and skip down,
Sorry, I was going to say it's just so much more intuitive than the RAI was. I mean, the RAI, you were going from hall 5 to 13 to 10, outside to a tent, possibly being rained on. This is just linear. It's intuitive. It's so much easier. You can go upstairs, you can go downstairs, you can go outside. It's long, it's big, but man, it feels good.
You need the space to show the tech off properly, don't you? And of course, you need space to meet people, in a way that makes them feel comfortable, and you can impress them as much as you like with it. It's not too big, and it's just adequate, I think, really nice. Everybody's happy from that point of view. Because our tech needs a bit of space to be, especially showing experience, transparent LED, all these sort of things that are really impressive. You go to the States and see these big expositions, and one company's almost one hall, and you're walking in, and you need that sort of wow factor when you're demonstrating, especially new tech.
Well, and you're bringing up a good point that I was just about to jump in on right now. This is a tech show, and we are returning to the trade show floors, the technology. There was a lot of companies that, due to COVID, they, had to pause on releasing product coming from the manufacturer side, which was, well, how do we get our people? How do we get our product? And a couple of perspectives from it. What did you feel was the overall trend of the tech? Because ISE is one of the interesting shows in that it is, co-run between CDI and it's the commercial and the residential show. You don't have that in the States. We have it separated there. So you've got a lot of different manufacturers, a lot of different technologies. What were you feeling were kind of the takeaways? Because you were coming at it from a different perspective.
A number of different, because our readers are end users, but it's an end user magazine read by the industry.
Right.
So you're looking at tech developments. I haven't been out in the fall, this, that, and the other, but clearly there were virtual production, transparent LEDs, various other things. But certainly with our interviews, they're all around the software issues.
Really?
Skill shortages. And, ironically, virtual production that really is going to have to be a big sell, but great, you can get it in. Is it going to improve learning in universities remotely, and is it going to help people do certain things piecemeal, but where are skills going to be coming? Can we bring in digital expertise, all that sort of stuff? Within AV, different buying patterns, because we've been in a hybrid world, we're working differently. Is that dictating how customers buy tech? And are they going to be less on bulk buys and discounts and more interoperability and understanding networking and making things be part more of the infrastructure of their companies? A lot of decisions are being made at the moment about where this stuff sits. So even on traditional events have changed enormously. They've become more sophisticated, haven't they? So you have to be clever and think on your feet, but it's going to be expensive. But I think the integrators, I do wonder whether they know what's coming down the road, I think a bigger market for consultants and independent advice, not so much for the big individual single vendor deals at discount that we used to see. This is a box and solutions, block it on the wall. You need a bit more nous around that, and the customers need to be a bit more analytical in the way they think about how they use their tech and how it benefits their business, because we are strategic.
Absolutely. The word that I was hearing a lot necessarily wasn't overt at times, it was more implied, and sometimes you'd hear it in their messages, was interoperability. Everybody was talking about collaboration, which was different in terms of the users, but between the companies, there was, announcements of partnerships and alliances. From a manufacturing standpoint, what are you finding in terms of, you don't necessarily see as many of the walled silos between the companies. You're talking more and more with one another.
I think that's true. I'm absolutely convinced that one of the trends that we'll see coming out of this is a focus on interoperability. I think that
you got it on the first try. Come on now.
I'm good at this. But honestly, it really is, and supply chain issues really exacerbated the need to, or emphasized the need to focus on interoperability and partnerships, right? You can't have an end-to-end solution anymore because you might be missing component C of that deck, right, of that system. So you do have to ensure that your customers are running specifically with some mission critical projects, but just in general. And so what we're seeing for sure is lots of partnerships, lots of testing with others' equipment, and additionally enhanced capabilities through software, right? Again, hardware challenges, supply chain challenges. We're really seeing that software adds capabilities and functionality and is easily changed and upgraded through firmware and all of that. So I think that we're for sure going to see more and more of that rolling out in AV.
Well, see, I'm not going to put you on the spot as a manufacturer on the supply chain issue. But that is a conversation that did come up.
Huge.
That a lot of manufacturers, and I have to give them props, are now attacking it head on. I mean, I think there was a lot of the past year which was, nothing to see here. We know that it's there, but there was a lot of head in the sand. What were your impressions in terms of the supply chain conversation?
I'm in a slightly more privileged position. I also am responsible for Electronics Weekly. So you're seeing the component side, and there was definitely a major change in reliability and originality and security within the component chain, not just availability. You put your finger on it with testing, that's going to be a big issue as we move forward and who's going to do it. But it made people rethink about the components in the equipment they were buying, how long a shelf life is it, and how they're going to then plan their future supply chain. That's absolutely very, very, very interesting to see follow through. And the last bunch of corporate CXOs I've interviewed, strangely, haven't been sales backgrounds. They've all been electronics engineers. Really? All going to the old Marconi thing in the UK and everything else, good head of Christie. And we talked about mentorship, various other things. But yeah, they're electronics guys. Most of the guys, apart from Christine, from Shaw, who is amazing, could have been a concert pianist if she'd followed her career through. So very interesting individual people. But that senior level flow of managers has changed over the past 3 or 4 years. Interestingly, quite anonymously.
I'm hoping that might be the segment of part of a show coming on up. I would love to spend the entire time with both of you at this point, but I'm going to keep it brief. Gina, if they want to find out more about Atlas IED, if they want to find out more about what you're doing in the industry, kind of your thoughts on the show, how can we find out more information about you and Atlas IED?
Atlas IED is at atlasied.com, and on Twitter at Atlas_IED. We are on Facebook, we are on Instagram, we are on LinkedIn, so follow us everywhere. I am also on LinkedIn, so you can follow me there, Gina Sansevero, and I would love to talk to you more another time.
My first time interviewing you. I'm so happy. It's like we spent all that time together.
I
but
know.
On camera. Clive, if they want to find out more information about AV Magazine with a capital M.
Well, with a capital M, sadly, it's there's a bit confused. It's AVinteractive.com.
Okay.
Because we couldn't get the domain name years ago for AVmagazine.com. I mean, who made that mistake, I don't know. But anyway, we are everywhere, as indeed everybody is, sadly, with me on it. Yes, do persevere. It's very good. We're broadening our coverage for everything at the moment, so it's good.
Well, if people are looking to find you, how can they find you? Are you on the socials, or are you going to be pushing us straight to the...
I'm doing more social, like YouTube. I used to be a broadcast journalist, so I've been looking through all my old stock. It's frightening, I tell you. And I can't believe that. I can't believe that. Of course, I'm doing my replenish on my YouTube channel, going through AV Magazine. It's amazing where you end up. You're everywhere. So you can type Clive Coldwell in, and you see all our latest interviews and everything else in. And they'll probably kill me for saying on AV Magazine because they wanted to say AV Magazine, which you can do, but all the videos come up.
Well, AV Magazine
in various
on
guises and
AVNation.tv.
shapes and sizes, may I say. There you go.
Well, fantastic. Well, if you want to find out more information about us, you're going to find us on our website at AVNation.tv. For AV Week, the Uncle Richie edition here at Barcelona, Spain for ISE 2023. I'm saying goodbye, and we will be catching up with you for the next segment shortly. And welcome back. I now have 2 new guests by the magic of technology. My prior guests have gone. My new guests are here. I actually, it's really great. I'm going to get to you in a second because we've spent all week together. But I've got Nancy Blanchard here to the right of me. Nancy, you're with Williams AV. You're the consultant liaison for Williams.
I am.
And as well, as they've said, the champion of PSNI, right?
I am. Yes, I am.
Well, welcome. It's actually the first time that we get to sit down and talk with one another. To your right is my broadcast partner for the past 4 days here for AVNation, Toby Tungle from CTI. It's good to see you again and again.
I think that we've seen each other a lot this week, haven't we? Cab rides in the studio. It's been fantastic.
It is. We've been joined at the hip, so it was a brand new one for us. You and I have had the opportunity that we've been alternating days, and so when I've been in studio, you've been on the floor, flip-flopping back and forth. I'm going to get right to it.
Okay.
So summer of 22 was the postponed show. Here. It was gorgeous. I loved the weather for it. I wish almost we could get it back to that. But when the show opened up, and I've had lots of conversations with people, there was always that trepidation of like, is this thing ever going to come back and take off again? Fast forward to January. We're at the end of the show now. Tell me some of your impressions that you've got, right when you walked in that first day of the show.
More exhibitors.
Mm-hmm.
So great group of attendees, and as a manufacturer, over these past couple days, is the quality of the people that have been coming through the booths and the leads.
Mm-hmm.
It's genuine. It's not tire kickers or anything. These are people that actually have a need, and they want to learn about your product, your technology, and see if it'll fit within, their application.
I'm actually going to jump in on that in a second, but I wanted to get your view on, we got to be on the show floor and back and forth. What were some of the things that you noticed since we got to see all of the halls? We got the grand tour during this entire show. What were you able to see?
There was a lot of people out there. The pre-show numbers are going very positive right now. Something that I really noticed was as we transitioned through the week from hall to hall, there was several people that were far more engaged, to Nancy's point, in the booths, having really deep conversations about how they're affecting what projects they have coming up from an integrator perspective, how they're going to support their clients on a global basis. I thought it was really, really positive.
Pretty cool having the King of Spain come through, too.
Yes.
I missed that as well.
I'll say, man, he owed me 20, so he shined me on. I tried to wave, and he's like...
Next time.
Next time, he'll catch me on the flip side. The conversation reared its head several times, I know, when I was walking the booths, and I can overhear it between partners and manufacturers. And I'm not going to put you on the spot necessarily, but the dreaded S word, the supply chain conversation. It felt like now that we no longer had the world is changing, we're not sure how this is going. We're now at kind of the real conversations where integrators and end user and customers are saying, okay, how about now? And manufacturers, to their credit, many of them that I spoke with are approaching it head on and saying, here's what we did, here's how we're doing it. What were your feelings in terms of, how we're still dealing with supply chain and with product? I mean, we're a product-based world still, in terms of our side of the industry. What were you noticing, how that was playing out through the show?
Well, I mean, it's a typical question that, I'm asked all the time. Mm-hmm. But what I said is that, and, jump in, is I think that it was a great opportunity for the smaller manufacturers who have been trying to get into this, see the integrators, but you've got the larger brand, and so that's always first and foremost on an integrator's mind. And now like the Absons and Aurora Multimedia, they've got product available. It might be cheaper, but it's just as good quality.
Right.
So I see that it's now a chance for them to sort of move up and to be able to be in the game and to be able to supply integrators and things. We were lucky because our CEO doesn't come from the AV industry, and he's lived in Asia and things, and so from the get-go, he realized and saw that we got to jump on the bandwagon. We've got to forecast, we've got to put POs out there, and so Williams actually did really well during the pandemic. So I think we're one of the few companies, and it even took some of our products and what we didn't think what markets they would be used in or applications. Now all of a sudden they're using them for that because you had the social distancing and stuff. So
you had lots of interesting conversations.
I asked every single
show.
person this question. Yeah, and I think the trend was they're working on strategy and roadmaps for product to get themselves outside of the supply chain craziness, right? There's certainly a handful of them that have products that they can't get away from, but I would say 90 to 95% of most manufacturers' products are available in a very much more reasonable time frame. There's still some out there lingering, but they're focused on that under 90-day window that we're all pre-pandemic really used to and we strive for. I don't know if we'll get to the pre-30-day window, perhaps from the early 2000s, but certainly what I appreciate is them looking through that lens of an integrator and a client and figuring out new ways to do it versus what we experienced last year of kind of a few putting the head in the sand and saying, well, this is what it is, and we're going to buy our way out of it and hope for the best. And it just got worse. The demand from our clients just got to be greater and greater and greater, and they had no choice but to accelerate. And it was fantastic to hear, again, that they were really focused on that.
And adding on to that is, I think, that we learn, don't put all of your eggs in one basket when it comes to a supplier. So if you have components that you have to use, you've got to be able to see that, okay, well, if they're not available here, you have to have an alternative.
Do you see that as being a title shift occurring going forward?
Has to be. I don't think there's any way around it, right? Because otherwise, we're going to go backwards. And if you're not green and growing, you're brown and dying at that point, right? And as fast as things are innovating in our industry, we're still not as fast as some other industries, probably where your CEO came from, right? Significantly looking at the IT world, they're innovating 2x what we're innovating right now because we can't keep up with that.
Right. It's caused a lot of changes in terms of how manufacturers deal with one another as well. We were talking in the earlier segment that it wasn't that manufacturers felt that they necessarily wanted to play well with others. Now they have to play well with others. And a big thing that I had seen when walking the show floor and using the word, and I'm always going to mangle it, but I'm going to try it again, is interoperability.
Well done.
I got it. Did you notice, or in terms of some interesting alliances, I think is what I noticed along the way. Do you see that that's where we're going to be going forward as well with this? What are your feelings about how this new software, hardware? I mean, we're in a hybrid work world, but it started to feel like we're in a hybrid product offering world now too, where it's not a single name solution anymore that you're dealing with it, like you were just talking about with eggs in a row. What do you see coming through 23 and 24?
Oh, it's going to be a lot more fun because to your point, and I had the privilege of interviewing quite a few manufacturers that are only one vertical. Maybe it's audio, maybe it's video, but they're reaching across the aisle going, hi, I need this to fill out my portfolio and I want to work with you. Or more specifically on the software side, one that I actually was able to do today was Cisco is going to be team certified and they're going Zoom and Google. Like, how many people thought Cisco would be willing to go outside of WebEx just 5 or 6 years ago?
Right.
They're focused on that product roadmap to reach across the aisle, knowing that their client base is demanding it.
Right.
And from that same perspective, then they're able to look at, okay, we're not losing market share, we're gaining market share, we're gaining relationships in our industry to make us stronger.
I absolutely agree. And I saw it years ago when it was Avocor. They started partnering with Microsoft, and then there was another one that was out of Calgary. All of a sudden, I forget what their name is. But that's where I said, aha, that's smart. That if you want to get ahead and you want to reach a greater audience, you need to start doing partnerships. And so that is, I think, moving forward, what we're going to see with many different companies.
I love it.
Well, I think with Infocom coming up, and then 24 in Barcelona, we're gonna hopefully we'll see how well you read the tea leaves on the way through, right? Well, again, I love when I get a chance to do AV Week because I could just sit here and listen to you two talk all day, but I can't. So
Tim will yell at us.
Yeah, exactly. Nancy, if people want to find out more about Williams AV or you on the socials or PSNI or the long list of things that occur, how can they find you?
You can contact me. My email is nancyb@williamsav.com. Mm-hmm. And I'm active, which I'm sure you can attest to with this show, is Twitter, and LinkedIn is @NancyBlanchard.
Great. My partner here in the studio, how can they find more about you, Toby, and CTI as
Partner
well?
in crime. I love it. Everything for us is cti.com. If you want to find me anywhere, social or email, it's @TobyTungle. All the way across.
Well, and you guys had a new announcement from Conference Tech to this is
CTI. We did rebrand this week, and we officially are now just CTI.
Which is pretty cool. Logo, the whole thing.
Logo, website, branding, everything went live on February 1st.
Well,
Congrats.
Thanks.
This is Mitchell from AVNation, usually sitting in the background just to do a little bit of housekeeping. ISE 2023, I think, has been a success, not just the show in general, but for AVNation. And I cannot understate that that is because of the quality of our team. So I would like to thank Matthias and the crew at Popular Pictures, the ground crew for running the interviews on the floor and literally running the floor, as it were, for our presenters, Toby Tungle and Uncle Richie, editor Jan, because editors don't give enough credit, and of all the people I really want to thank, we couldn't have done this without Paige Flanagan. She is a master coordinator. She handled the schedule amazingly, managed to get socials on point, take that Joe away, and has just been an incredible asset to the team on top of her regular job as Director of Operations and Sales. And I don't think I should say regular because she is insane and kills it. So if you see her on the floor or if you see her on Twitter, tell her she's doing an amazing job because she is. So thank you, everyone, if I didn't thank you. And that should be about it. So with that in mind, back to your regularly scheduled podcast.
Recording on day 4, the end of the show. Fortunately, I have in studio somebody who is meeting for the first time and somebody who I've known a long time. To my right, my partner in broadcasting from A State of Control, Steve Greenblatt, the founder and CEO of Control Concepts. Good to see you, buddy.
Good to see you. I'm so glad we got a chance to spend some time together in person.
Finally, we spent so much time, on the opposite side of the camera at this point, but we got together. We actually recorded a show together, which made it even fun. It was tight spaces, but we made it work. And I'm actually going to read from my notes on this one because I got to get it right. Ryan Gray.
That's true.
Assistant Director of IT from Yavapai College and a member of HETMA.
Yes.
So we have a rule. You can't have an acronym unless you break it on out.
No problem. I'll give you 2 things, and it's not your fault. Yavapai.
Yavapai.
Named after the Native American tribe that's in our area. So Yavapai College, Northern Arizona, it's gorgeous. And yeah, HETMA, the Higher Education Technology Managers Alliance. So a group of higher ed people that get together and try and take care of our vertical and do scholarships and other great work.
Well, I got the history lesson, and I've got the...
Sorry.
No, this is fantastic. I love it. That's the best part about it. All right, I'm going to jump into it.
Yeah.
So, one of the conversations I had earlier was, I was fortunate to cover the show in summer. Gorgeous in summer, a little chillier in winter, but it got better. And when the show opened, the big concern, for everybody was like, is this thing going to happen? And is it done? Have we changed the history of trade shows, period? It was a nice surprise. The numbers started to come back. Fast forward to January, the doors opened, and I think everybody was, I don't necessarily know if they were surprised, but really, really happy with where the response was. Tell me some of your impressions. We're now 4 days into the show, coming at it from different approaches, but what did you feel in terms of your impression of the show when it started and it opened, and kind of where you felt coming in and what you're feeling now 4 days after?
So going in, obviously, we talked about what is the future of trade shows. So there's still a lot of progression, and I was expecting people to start to inch their way back. InfoComm, I think, was a nice rebound year, but it was more about getting together. It was more about seeing your friends, and everybody talked about, we're back together in person. How did that feel? It was great. This was a real trade show. I mean, we came back, and everybody they had their A game. The place was packed. The walkways were packed. The manufacturers came to play. It really felt like we were, I would say continuation, if you skip the last 2 years, it was a natural progression from 2020 to 2023.
So you feel like, obviously integrators are a large part of our audience. Is it something that they should absolutely feel that if they haven't come back to a trade show or they're kind of on the fence, then now's the time?
So I enjoy this trade show coming from the U.S. because it gives us the opportunity to have different conversations. The pace is different.
Right.
4 days makes it a little bit easier. It's massive.
Yeah.
I mean, you have to know that it's massive, but it's got a little something for everybody, and you have to pick and choose and be strategic in how you approach it. But what I think is most important is that we came here to really get AV at a different time of year. That's very helpful. You got to see a different part of the industry. You got to see different types of people. And it's more of the fact that it's the cross-section, too, between commercial and residential.
Right.
So there's a lot of interesting and unique parts to ISE.
Right. Commercial, residential, corporate, absolutely your sweet spot. How about higher education? Talk about that.
Yeah, so we've been talking about that all week. There's one thing first off about ISE is it's in such a better time slot for purchasing for higher ed, right? And we run fiscal year, so Infocom is great, but I won't see any of I can't put that in for another year. So this is the right time to be looking at it. And talking about different roles, as whether trade shows are back, I think that question is over. It's packed. I got to come as part of a media group to cover the show for other higher ed people. And if I didn't have that pass to go through the other line, the lines were huge. It was fantastic. And as a school that does a lot of our own in-house integration, I look at it like an integrator. I'm looking for the things I'm going to put in the next design. And as somebody who supports end users, the conversations about user experience in the booths rather than specs and those sorts of things is kind of on a different level than I've seen at trade shows before, where the melding of different technologies, it's less, the conversations aren't, is that an IT, is it AV, is it commercial, is it residential? It's just, how are we going to use that for the people back at home to make the experiences that they need?
Trade shows tend to have different adjectives to describe them during phases. There are trade shows that are revolutionary, sometimes with huge technology breakouts. There are trade shows that are evolutionary, where you're taking something and then you're kind of refining it. We've had the 4K involvement years. We've had, the analog to digital years, right? We've had, obviously, in the past 2 years, the UC, right? Unified communication is, you pretty much, if you're having a conversation here at this show, what do you feel that 23 as a show, if there was going to be a message about it that was like kind of the underlying conversation, even given that we're straddling residential, pro, broadcast, commercial, did you feel that there were any trends or common, just kind of the language coming out from who you spoke with, end users and manufacturers?
Please, one of the words that somebody said to me earlier was challenging. That is, there are things out there that will make you think different about what you're doing. And it's not, there are ones that are evolutionary and revolutionary, but this is one where I think if you want to say truly post-pandemic is in and new ideas need to be taken seriously, especially for higher ed, our entire plan of what we do is different. There is no difference between online and sort of online and in person. They're trying to do it all. So some of the solutions that we need for those things are in development. And then the other thing is some of the things that we got to get a look at that are kind of under NDA, still coming in the future, are even more. So I think the revolution is coming.
Really?
And the beginning of it is kind of what we got to see here.
You're in a unique position because, right, parts is everybody's parts, right? Talk about what and congratulations, because I'm gonna toot your horn again. You were one of the first acknowledged partners with a manufacturer for software development as a third party, which is not a small thing. What did you notice on the floor?
So first I'll comment on that. QSYS announced their developer partner program, which we became one of the initial members of, which is great. And you and I, we talk about this every month on A State of Control, is all we try to do is make sure that people see the value in software developers and AV programmers. And I think this is a great step in that direction. So thank you, QSYS, for doing that. And they're not the only ones, but they're the ones that announced it at this show. And what we're finding more of, and just in general, I think the trends in the industry are that we can't be too committed to one particular product, one particular brand. And I think that we've seen what could happen. And it's just like anything else. If you're financially investing, you want to diversify your portfolio. So you have to be able to look at what are the different products and what is my backup, and maybe what's my second backup. So what we're seeing more is that manufacturers are looking to play nice with each other again, which is a great thing. And you and I, the whole reason why control programming exists is to make all these products that aren't supposed to work together work together. And so that's been our quest for how long. And there was a period of time a few years ago maybe where manufacturers only wanted to sell an ecosystem.
Right.
And I think that they're realizing potentially some of the pains of that and some of the pitfalls. So I think for our industry, it's great to open these doors. Competition is good. I know that nobody wants to lose market share, but I think that this is a time now where everybody can really shine at what they do best. But the bottom line is, for your clients and your users, you need to put in systems. And you need to be able to have products that work together. And the ones that do are the ones that you're probably going to specify.
And you use the word ecosystem. That's perfect. What have we been sold, right? You need to be a this customer, this campus, a this whatever, until I can't be it anymore. And the glue that ties that together, right, is creative design and software. Software-based things. Our colleges are training software engineers to make everything integrate and work together. And that's exactly where we need to be, which is not tied to a particular manufacturer, but tied to what is best in our rooms on a day in and day out basis.
So I'm going to ask you a question then based on that.
Yeah.
Do you feel that we've reached a critical mass point where having that single vendor solution is something that we're going to return back to?
Well, I think there always will be incentives, right, for manufacturers to try and change. They know where funding comes from. They know how the buying system works, and they're going to align it to try and build that out. But burned once, burned twice, you have to, you kind of have to be careful with that. The other thing you see from manufacturers is starting to subvert their own supply chains with software solutions. That's been going on for a while, but now, like, some of big names literally saying, well, I'm not going to sell you a box anymore. I'm going to sell you a license for something that's going to run on someone else's hardware. And we get to the point where what we talk about on AV on a campus is simply endpoints that are networked together, and it is the intelligence, the programming, and not the design of the room, but the design of our entire campuses that is driving that. That's really exciting for us.
I think that's a step in the right direction, certainly. I mean, that's what we want to be hearing.
Right.
And I think that there's also that trend now to, here's the box, and this is what it does today, but we're also going to be growing it by updating the software, not necessarily replacing it,
Right.
which has been the old way of doing things, but we're going to make this more powerful over time. And I think the question, going back to what you started with, is as far as the platform solution or the ecosystem, if they earn it, great, and I think that's what should be happening.
Yeah, and as long as I can get things in that ecosystem to continue projects along, that's great. If I can't,
I have a feeling it's going to be the subject of many shows in the future that we're going to have at this point. Well, again, I could sit here and talk and listen to you guys all day long, but I can't because I'm on a timeline.
All right.
So, Steve, if they want to find out more about Control Concepts and what you're doing in the industry, you yourself, tell us how we can find you and Control Concepts.
So my Twitter and other social media is at Steve Greenblatt. My company, Control Concepts, is at controlconcepts.net. But I'm going to steal a line from Uncle Richie. The best place to find us is here at AVNation on our suite of shows, as well, and most importantly, a State of Control, which is on control programming and automation. And Rich and I have been 9 years in the making, so please check that out if you'd like to talk more about it. And reach out to us, both of us.
Ryan, hit us with your info. How can we find out more?
Sure. On Twitter, it's Ryan_A_Gray. I contacted the guy who has the better one. I've been trying to get it back from him. You can find me on LinkedIn, and I would encourage people to go to hetma.org, HETMA.org, to learn about that organization, and at Higher Ed AV on all the socials to keep an eye on what's going on.
Well, fantastic. Well, if you want to find out more information about our coverage here at ISE, you're going to find it on our website here at AVNation.tv. That's all the time that I have for this segment. I have another segment coming up that's going to be pretty special, but I can't tease it just yet. But for AVNation.tv, this is Rich Fregosa, Uncle Richie, in Barcelona, Spain for ISE 2023. This is AV Week, ISE 2023 Barcelona edition. And I'm calling it a special edition, special episode. To my right, very few times do I get to stand next to somebody and go, someone who needs no introduction, truly, Mike Blackman, the director of ISE. We are here on day 4 of the show, and heartfelt congratulations.
Thank you, thank you. I mean, this has been a great celebration. We're going to party tonight, I tell you.
So, I want to get into this year's show. And you and I had the opportunity to just kind of chat a little bit before we started recording. And I had the luxury of being able to cover the show during the summer. It was my first time in Barcelona and the show itself. And, when I got the call, day 1 before the doors opened, it was that moment of, okay, what are we going to see? How's this going to play out? And then the doors open, and there was like this
Breathing out,
breathing out, and speaking to the manufacturers and the end users. Everybody felt like, you know, we're moving in that direction, and there were these pleasant surprises. Fast forward to InfoComm in the States, in North America, and I got to cover that show, and then we saw that feeling.
Yeah.
How did you feel coming into the 2023 show, and now 4 days into the show? You know, walk me through, because there's a lot.
There's a
with this
lot
show.
that's gone on, yeah. I mean, we are the biggest AV show in the world, and we've maintained that even during the pandemic.
Right.
The 2022 show was something that it gave people the confidence again that shows are back. There was a lot of talk during the pandemic about, shows are not going to happen. We're all doing everything hybrid. It's all going to be online, etc. You know, we're in a business where we want to be next to each other. We want to touch.
Absolutely.
This networking part has become so significant that people want to get back together. But, you know, we just had 2 years of nothing. And suddenly the first thing's really happening and thinking, well, is it going to work or not? Well, it did work. We had a great audience last year, 43,600 attendees. And, you know, for a recovery from a pandemic, that was a phenomenal figure.
Absolutely.
So that gave confidence back to the industry. That gave confidence back to the manufacturers that, hey, they get the audience there. It gave confidence back to the attendees because they said, the exhibitors were there. It was worth going. They didn't see as many product launches as they would normally like to have done. But everyone accepted that. It was more about getting back together. This year, it was more like, okay, we're back.
Right.
Let's see what ISE has to offer. And I don't know if you were here on the first morning and saw the crowds outside.
Absolutely. The people were queuing up. I was lucky that I had the press pass to get through my side, because it was phenomenal, just the energy of seeing it. But it was wall-to-wall people excited to get through the door.
Yeah. And when they were inside, what they got to see was over 1,055 exhibitors. Yes, we were missing a lot of the Chinese companies who couldn't get their visas.
Right.
They're going to be back next year. They're already calling us and saying, okay, we want space. But we had 1,055 companies exhibiting here and showing what they have. We had hundreds of product launches. And, you know, that's a key to ISE. People are coming here and they're seeing new things. We had almost 200 new companies that had never been here before. That's also something exciting to actually say, not only to people like you who know the industry, hey, come, you'll see something new, but to people who are looking to invest. We're seeing more and more investors coming to the show, shopping. Yeah, absolutely. But more so, everyone who's coming say, you're guaranteed to see new things at ISE. So that was really, really great. We've had new areas in the show. We managed to actually really create something for Pro Audio this time with the audio demo rooms in Hall 8.
Absolutely.
We've been toying with that. Those companies have been saying, you know, we want to be here. We know we can't demonstrate Pro Audio on the booths because that disturbs everybody else. But you want to keep us, you need to provide something. And we came up with something which they now said, yeah, that works. We like it. We have outdoor demo Pro Audio demos as well. That's new for us.
Right.
And again, something where the company
And again,
said,
fortunately, the Barcelona, even in winter, gives us the opportunity to have an outdoor demo.
We couldn't do that in Amsterdam.
Absolutely.
Then something new. What we saw last year was a lot of virtual studios.
Right.
Virtual production. So we said, okay, we've got 70 other companies around the show doing this. It's a real part of ISE now. So we decided to put that in one area. So we put that in Hall 6, and a new area, content production and distribution, and content creation, and distribution, and very, very popular, some really cool stuff in there. That's going to be a new part of ISE 2024, where we're going to a new hall with that as well. So we really saw a lot of new things, some really exciting things that people went away with and said, wow. The exhibitors have said to me, great quality. They've really seen not just more people, but really good quality. And when I talk about more people, day one, we had over 33,000 people in the building. That was a record for ISE, for any first day ISE from the beginning.
Really?
Yeah. So
I mean, it was apparent. I mean, you
Yeah.
just with a head count and just being able to look out over it.
Yeah.
I'm not surprised in that
Yeah.
respect.
Well, the best day 2, which is traditionally our biggest day,
Right.
more than 40,000 people in the building. And day 3, which is usually about our second, we did about 35,000. Today it drops off. We know that, and but even we'll probably hit about half of what we did on day 3.
Right.
That's bigger than we did in our 7th show and the whole event, let alone one day. But everything's relative, and when you see 35,000 people on one day, 17 looks really bad.
Right.
But it's still good, and most of the exhibitors who know the show, actually, they say that's the day we go and talk to our competitors, we go and talk to our collaborators, we go and see the rest of the show ourselves. And those people are really wise and want time to talk with the exhibitors, they come on Friday.
You used the word collaboration, and that was a word that came up so much during this show. I'm going to point out some of the high spots that you also, you had your ISE Influencer Lounge. I mean, there were... It's amazing how you recognize the audience. I mean, obviously, ISE, largest trade show, the one that brings AVIXA and CEDIA together. Partnerships are what your show is about to begin with, but then to be able to see on the show floor, you're hearing left and right alliances and partnerships between manufacturers, between standards.
But that's what systems integration is about.
Right.
And we've learned that. It's funny. People who don't know our industry, they walk into the show and they say, oh, this is about screens. And I say, guys, actually, no. That's the interface that you see. There's a lot more behind that. It's a complete solution that you're seeing here. And you should look more about what it's offering. Where is that being put into place? And what's the idea behind it?
I could sit here and spend all day with you on this one because it is fantastic. But again, we did thank you because you've always taken great care of AVNation. We did want to thank you as well for your hospitality.
I'm a fan.
Well, so are we. Again, 23 was a fantastic show. Please take your victory lap because it is well deserved. For us at AVNation, we do want to say congratulations. Thank you for the hospitality. Thank you for hosting us here.
I always will do. Remember, put it in your diaries for next year, 30th of January to the 2nd of February. Mark it down. We expect to see AVNation back on at ISE again. And all those people who are out there, come and join us.
Fantastic. If people do want to find out more about ISE and the upcoming show in 24, how can they find out more information?
Go to our website, www.iseurope.org. Again, www.iseurope.org. You can find us on Twitter. You can find us on LinkedIn. You can find us on Facebook. You can find us on Instagram. Just put ISE in there and you'll find us.
Well, I'm glad I don't have virtual Mike Blackman this time. Thanks for having us. We appreciate it. It's always a pleasure speaking with you. If you want to find out more about ISE, we're going to find it on their website. If you want to find out more about AVNation and our coverage of ISE 2023, you're going to find it on our website at avnation.tv. This is Rich Fregosa, Uncle Richie, for AVWeek ISE 2023 Barcelona edition.